Welcome to our fifth Sales and CRM ANZ User Group. As always, if you're new to the Hug, welcome, delighted to have you. And on previous Hugs, we've covered a variety of sales topics to date. Some relate to one another, but today's topic stands alone, which is great. And it's all about building or refining your sales pipeline. I think it's quite huge. And I know everyone that's either on the call or to be listening on recordings will find nuggets in the session. Also to one of you out there who completed our form earlier on in the invitation process, just requesting the best sales topics you'd like to cover. And I think that's the whole point of this Hug group. It's a joint group. And thanks so much for recommending a topic, which in fact was by one of you in the community and while we're putting on today's Hug. So just in terms of the agenda, which is on the screen in front of you, there's quite a lot to cover in the way of the topics and obviously have a Q&A, and all of that intended within 30 minutes. We have had some technical glitch on the session, which is fairly uncommon, and by recording, we hope to conclude within 30 minutes. So I think just by way of your Hug speakers today, obviously presenting myself, Glenn, and co-founder of Lupo Digital. I am responsible for consultation, strategy, training, coaching, optimizing sales team, ROI for sales teams, pretty much in every way, and obviously linking that back into a marketing strategy. At Lupo, we're pioneering a phrase we've coined the sales operating system, but also we're purists in everything HubSpot, CRM, marketing, lead gen, websites, integration. So to that note, it's a great pleasure that I introduce my co-host for today's Hug, Michael Wolf. Welcome, Mike.
Great, thank you, Glenn. So to join the Hug. So as Glenn mentioned, I'm one of the partners, co-founders of Lupo, together with Glenn over 6 years ago. Just have background. I've set up and run other B2B organizations and sales teams prior to Lupo, and certainly prior to the internet and the digital age, and have found principles of managing and working in sales teams exactly the same. So we'll find that very interesting as we go through the Hug.
Looking forward to this, Mike.
Yeah.
So right, guys, let's get into our engines and excite you as much as that rocket ship. So anyway, the nature of every business. So sorry, just to take a step back, we're going to be defining a sales process, our first topic for today. And the nature of every business, as you're seeing on the screen, is obviously very different and unique. The operational environment, how the business approach sales, their process, the systems, it needs to be looked at and considered very unique to your situation. And for example, B2B, B2C, e-commerce, bricks and mortar, there's little industry nuances and product specific, in fact, that can impact sales very differently in how you address your approach to sales. So having a formal pipeline like HubSpot and the CRM creates a platform and a springboard for your business to scale and grow. And I think I'm just going to repeat that, scale and grow. Coming out of a COVID world, things are a bit difficult, and some businesses have retracted, not scaling and growing. And these tools have been designed to help you with people at scale. So there's a lot that can be said for a system like HubSpot Sales and CRM to scale and grow, and especially when it's configured and used properly. Having a sales process means a consistent approach to selling and systemizing your business for scale. And it does come around it. So I know that 100% people are moving in and out of the business. They come, they go, and that movement means volatility and less consistency, because often they take the knowledge with them, or they've set up a system and maybe the remaining don't know how to maintain that system. So without a roadmap to follow, and in sales, we call that a sales playbook, right? Which we'll cover on another Hug for today, but the business is at risk and it has no consistency across sales and the sales function. There's no guaranteed reporting outcomes. Every part of that sales, the team, the tracking, the performance becomes quite difficult. So our key focus for today assumes that you already have a sales process, to be honest. And in today's Hug, our goal isn't as much to teach you how to build that, but more to help you optimize one. And not to worry, because as you see on this next slide, we're going to give you a link in the slide that if you are quite new to HubSpot, you don't know how to set one up, through those motions in one, building a pipeline, and you're molding HubSpot's cookie cutter to make it your own. Two, which we'll do through today, is leveraging our experience more around the practical business issues that HubSpot don't cover as yours. So another resource on top of the first one that we'll link to you is a tool that we've put together that just helps you, on top of HubSpot's methodology, just map a sales process, right, to refine or build yours. And using this tool, if you haven't before, kind of internal workshopping, and here's just a snapshot of the first page of that tool, but it just helps extract from you the brain's trust from a buyer perspective and then a seller perspective, how to map your process on both sides, but more importantly, how to identify the deal stages process allied to become a deal stage in HubSpot's pipeline, as well as mapping the content that you might need, or your sales team, your reps, your BDM stage relative to your buyers, and then also thinking about things like timing and each step. It'll help you build out in your pipeline what must be done and when and how. And those results will evolve to become either your new sales pipeline or a pipeline, hopefully for the better. And now we'll look at optimizing your pipeline. Mark, handing it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. So look, in terms of sales pipeline, a common question, and we had questions from Hug followers in terms of pipelines. Questions. One, how many pipelines should I have? And question number two, how to define and manage the different sales qualified lead and SQL and an opportunity, and that's relative to a deal and pipeline management and when to create a deal. Looking at question number one, how many pipelines should I have? Now, typically multiple pipelines could exist for business needs, a product sales pipeline for core business sales, a customer success or similar sales pipeline for sales, a partnership sales pipeline for channel sales, and obviously there could be others as well. Now, most organizations, you only need one sales pipeline, not multiple, to manage nuances for your unique business and circumstances. And sales circumstances, you probably just need, and in most instances, you just need customers or fields to manage your products, brand, services, or channels, not an entire pipeline. So I'll just repeat that, guys. Custom deal properties or fields can be used to manage one unique pipeline, not the need for multiple pipelines. Just going forward to question number two, and how to define and manage the difference between leads and SQLs, and when to create a deal. So timing around the lead to opportunity handoff is critical, and it'll help significantly consider when to renew, and we'll get more detail going on. Okay, so a second question is opportunity and defining the difference. So let's go into this in a lot more detail. So broadly, an SQL or sales qualified lead is unqualified, as opposed to an opportunity, which is a qualified contact for sale. And if we unpack this in a lot more detail, SQLs typically express some level of interest in your product or offering, but have not yet been qualified to determine if they're an ideal fit, if they fit the ideal persona, nor if they would benefit from this. They're in a state of getting ready or prepared to buy, but they're just not there yet. So confirming your SQLs are typically a problem who have not yet been qualified. They might be an ideal potential customer who would consider buying, but we still need to establish an opportunity for sale. We first need to qualify them as a fit for a product. Now, opposed to an SQL is an opportunity is qualified. They're a qualified prospect who has a high probability of becoming a customer. Furthermore, should have an identified pain point or points that your product or service can solve, and importantly, they have expressed an interest. Okay.
Mark said there can sound like a bit of a mouthful. Also, apologies on the screen. There's a bit of blurriness on this diagram. But I think I just want to highlight those two key concepts here is one, knowing what a best fit is for your business. I know that might sound obvious, but it's helpful to actually bullet point exactly what those best fit criteria are relative to the brand you sell, the product you sell, the services you sell. So if you have 3 different ones, you might need 3 different best fit criteria. The other thing then is qualification. And I think what we're trying to do is cross the chasm of timing. When you get an inquiry, is that person sales? And are they a best fit? Not in that order, actually, the other order. So even, 1 person, 2-person sales team, but going all the way up with a larger team, there's a battle to synchronize on the concepts of fit, timing, and sales readiness. So we've come up with this diagram on your screen, which is a nifty tool. And even if it's conceptual, just to see this and think about fit versus sales readiness. And coming back to Mark's point, am I dealing with a lead? Are they ready to buy? And hence, then coming an opportunity, or they're not ready yet. And so just to kind of convey this, the way this diagram works, I'll give you an example of a contact us form on your website. Someone might fill it out and request information about a product. We call those hand raisers. They've raised their hand, they're asking a question, they need you to give some kind of response. It could be a request for a demo, but they may not be with you just yet. It could just be, can you tell me something about your product? So we call those hand raisers, and the first step is fit. If you're returning a call for, you first want to qualify they're a bad fit, they're a good fit. If they're a bad fit, you obviously don't want to proceed, and therefore that SQL stops dead there. You've qualified that they're not actually, in fact, an opportunity. It just means that you've qualified them, they're a fit. They're in this box up here, but now the question is, are they sales ready? How far buyer's journey relative to your sales process? And quite simply, they'll either be sales ready and a good fit, in which case we're good to put them in the pipeline, create a deal, take them to the next step. Or they're not quite sales ready, but they are a good fit, which means let them brew a little bit in the pipeline. Probably the questions are, why? What do I send you by way of information? Can I you do a demo, whatever? But they're a good fit and they're just not sales ready. And alternatively, again, if they're a bad fit, they may be a bad fit because they're sales ready, and there's a chance we can rehab them, or they're a bad fit and they are not sales ready, and we do not want to be talking to them. So that leads us on to the next slide, which is just how to process those things that I've seen, unique to creating a bespoke version of your pipeline for your needs. And so just on the screen, we're suggesting a few custom properties. But as Mike alluded to before, often businesses make the mistake where they create an entire pipeline for some of these properties you're seeing on the screen. So for instance, if you've got you may not be able to create a deal just yet, you're still qualifying, but it's a good idea to put a custom property, for example, contact type. And that's not a native field out of HubSpot's out the box. And so you might want to create a contact type for vendor, prospect, knowing that if you select prospect, you're then going to put further information about what makes them a prospect and why. Now, some businesses need to go there and some don't. They might have a smaller team. But just running through some of these options could be things like a contact status, a warm lead. Lead status could also be they sales ready, qualified, so just like the grid I showed you in the diagram before. And then lastly is HubSpot's base stage for lifecycle stage. And in this one, we could again do a hug on its own. But if you're looking at your marketing team should and engagements with marketing that your contacts are moving through a life cycle stage. So by the time you're talking to them from a salesperson's perspective, you want to make sure that that's either set to SQL or beyond an opportunity. But rest assured, once you create a deal, the minute that deal's created and a contact is linked, HubSpot will update the contact record to opportunity. And again, just on the screen, if we now pivot over to the deal pipeline, you could add to help you optimize your deals. Once leads are qualified in, then we create the deal. At that time, from an exercise point of view that we completed before, just building out potential custom. We've just given you some examples, but so examples are like deal type, as you're seeing up here. Another example of type of deal, it could leverage a channel sale. So instead of needing a whole pipeline, you're just defining a deal type. It could be a sale you're making for a supplier purpose or a brand. We've also then got next steps. So within building out your process and your steps, you might want to define timing. So if you're selling homes, the sales cycle 12 months. If you're selling beauty products, the team might need to educate a particular beautician on certain things before sales can actually sell to. So next step day category, the product, the service, the brand are just some examples that we thought we'd share with you, but obviously free to make it your own. Handing back to you, Mike.
Great. So just now looking to unpack the various deal stages and content that we're going to use to populate those. So before looking at that sales content, I think it's a really good idea to look at differentiating between sales and marketing. So there's an old saying that marketing lines them up and sales knocks them down. And I guess there's a certain amount of truth to that. But in looking to unpack and define sales versus marketing content, broadly speaking, marketing content capture prospects' attention and generate interest very broadly. Good examples are blogs, informative blog, infographics, industry events or topics, as opposed to sales content, which is generally much more pointed. It's brand or specific. It's designed to compel prospects to buy because we're assuming they're behind the wire. So some pretty good examples of sales content are product comparison. Can be incredibly effective in establishing value. They provide the edge, but they can provide edge on competitors, and they can differentiate different tiers, even on your own products. And on screen, we've got an example of the HubSpot product tiers, a fantastic example of a product comparison. Another great example of designed to build trust, and they also provide an opportunity to show value and legitimacy, personal testimony element. Facts and figures graphics can be useful to demonstrate efficacy, but to ensure they project impressive figures that convey trustworthiness and benefit your prospects. Now, having said these examples of sales content, that's not to say you can't use them as marketing content as well. They do have a for both marketing and sales content as well. So you need to be very selective how you use them across both marketing and sales. So looking at pipeline and deal-based workflows, how do we automate as best as possible across the? So some of these are very, very logical and intuitive. So assigning lead owners, that's planetary, internal notifications. These can be sent, logically via email, via text, or even via HubSpot has a seamless integration and connection to Slack channels as well. Create and assign tasks is a closed one. The minute you win, you can assign a task to your internal champion or stakeholders. Follow-up emails, automating follow-up responses, deal stage automations. So workflows based on changes in deal stage, working on, especially in large-scale organizations, in large teams, lost deal follow-ups. So very important when deals either go to closed won and closed lost, but what do we do with closed losts? And we want to automate. This doesn't go into a lost chasm, quite frankly. So a lost deal flow workflow ensures that deals that are lost will receive communication in the future, and we're checking up on them, quite frankly. Date-based workflows. If a deal expires beyond close date or has no activity beyond X number of days, a workflow can be sent to remind them to follow up on that deal. And then finally, deal records for channel partners. Now, this may not be applicable to everyone, but if you have channel partners, you might not want them to see your entire HubSpot platform. However, you might access in certain instances. So to overcome this, you create a HubSpot. You can create a HubSpot form. This lets information into your HubSpot system, which will then generate a workflow for channel partners. Alrighty. So just looking briefly into sales, the product library. So broadly speaking, the product library broadly speaking, the product library allows you to quickly add products to deals, generate quotes, performance. The product endpoint in the CRM API allows you to manage and sync data between HubSpot and other systems. And then there's new features which I'll briefly touch on, added to HubSpot in the past few months, which you may or may not be aware. Relates primarily to customized templates, and some of the features where you can add discounts, manage fees and taxes, schedule or split payments over time. So all of this is relatively new, and with each payment, you'll have your own due date, own amount and name. You can add signatures and payments, decide how and when you want to collect signatures and payment for your individual quote as well.
And I think back of that, guys, HubSpot is an amazing tool, and it's packed with features. But then sometimes some of the tools, it's almost like they acquired a company in the woods, so you can't do certain things. And I think up until now, the products library and the quoting system, Mark, was quite archaic. But
it was a bit immature.
Focused on core business needs, like just getting payment on your invoice, and we're sending people to other platforms.
Yeah.
Why not keep them in the HubSpot? I think if you haven't checked out this little bullet list of the new features, most likely they're included in the plans you're paying for with HubSpot, your license fees. So it's probably good to just check them out and see if you can benefit from them. And I think, guys, also just obviously looking at the time and trying to keep this within our half hour, there's so much about pipeline that we could talk about. But similar to those new features, Mike, in that tool, I wanted to just bring to the surface that if you've got a sales pipeline, forecasting and reporting are like 101, right? And that top you could probably just cover on their own hugs. They're that big. So I think the thing I want you to walk away from in today's, being all around the sales pipeline, building yours, is just make sure, and HubSpot's got pre-defaulted ones, and in earlier hugs, we have covered this, myself and Danny Jones. There are default reports. If you go to your HubSpot report tool, HubSpot's got sales analytics, and there's about 20 reports stock standard out the box that'll do the job for you. So on the one hand, I just wanted to say you need to run those reports, add them to dashboards, customize them, give people's names, different stakeholders. You can obviously send out PDFs of those, regular email automation. And if you have any issues with that, please reach out to us. We'd love to help you. And then secondly, is the forecasting tools had a little bit of a revamp, just with some deeper insights, a bit more user-friendly. You can split forecasting by sales rep, by month. There's so many tools. And then once you've configured those tools, you can cross-reference as goals against your normal reporting. So again, if all of that's over your head and you need assistance, please let us know. We'd love to help. But otherwise, those reports, and they should represent the sales and revenue results on a holistic view for you. And most importantly, even the granular activity inside of them. Call numbers, email numbers, performance metrics, timing, handoff from one rep to the other. So, are we meeting our goals from the targets that were set in our forecasting, or are we not? And it's as simple as that. So to that end, a few more have jumped onto the attendee list here. We've had some technical glitches. It's probably one of our best uptakes, Mark, to date. Yeah. I think at this point, guys, by way of a summary and just a wrap up and heading into the Q&A, I think the theme today has been, if you're looking to scale and grow, you want to be systemizing using HubSpot to scale and grow rapidly, hyper growth. And obviously HubSpot Pipeline tools allow you to systemize one consistent sales approach and process. And I think rather than 10 people, if that's how many salespeople you have, running 10 processes, it's time to consolidate it all, take control as a business, and where the people come and go, you've locked in full control. So at this point, guys, you can come off mute if you need to, and you can also type in the chat pane, which Nimrod is curating for the Q&A. So we'll just open to any questions that you might have. I know, Mike, everyone's always itchy and dying to ask questions, but it does take a little bit of time. Courage or pop something out there.
Or to grab some lunch, maybe.
Or to grab some lunch if you're starving. So if you do have any questions or you'd like to come off mute, please do. While we wait, I will also mention that at the end of this, Nimrod, I'll just record a bit of a video for those that have missed the technical glitch. And so I will say at this point, if you are not on the call and watching by video and you have questions, please do email them through. glenn@lupodigital.com, and I'd be happy to filter them through with the team and get you a response.